You think she didn't notice you? You imagine you were just another face passing through her day like background music at a cafe? But the truth is sharper and more unnerving. She noticed you the moment you walked in. Not in the Hollywood way with the slow-motion turn and angels singing. She noticed you the way a radar notices a plane. Blip, blip, blip. Tracking, categorizing, evaluating. You interpreted silence as invisibility. She was interpreting your posture, your pace, the way you stood while waiting to order, the way you glanced at the barista when you said, "Thank you," and whether you stepped half a foot to give the next person space. She clocked your haircut and your shoes without consciously trying. You thought you were nobody. She already filed you under consider, curious, or pass. If you've ever had the experience of a woman remembering a detail you barely recall telling her, you've felt this. If you've ever had a woman quote your exact words back to you, not to win an argument, but to test whether you stay consistent under pressure, you've lived this. Women notice more than you realize, not because they're psychic, but because their attention system is calibrated to evaluate safety, status, and sincerity quickly. In a world where talk is cheap, attention is the truth. And her attention is not a spotlight you must chase. It's a sensor you can trigger, if you understand what it's listening for. Let me take you into a simple story. You're at a friend's small rooftop get-together. String lights. A good playlist from someone who still cares about bass. You're wearing a fitted navy tee, clean white sneakers, and a watch that doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to be yours. You arrive on time. You greet the host by name, hand him a couple of drinks you brought, and ask where to set them so they're easy for others. You're not performing, you're simply functional. That's the first blip on her radar. She notices not just that you came with something, but that you made it easier for everyone else. Then you move through conversations the way you move through a boxing combination. Measured, not rushed. You ask questions and listen. When you answer, you take a beat, like a drummer letting the bar breathe. You're not the loudest guy, you're the man with tempo. She notices. You step out onto the balcony to take in the city, not to isolate, but to breathe, and a woman you haven't met yet joins the view. She looks at your profile before you turn. She notices the way you adjust your stance to face her without crowding. You smile like you already belong here, which you do. You ask how she knows the host. She answers. You listen past her words. She notices the way your eyes hold just long enough to signal presence, but not so long it becomes a challenge. She asks what you do. You answer in one sentence, then follow with an example connected to real people, not titles. The problem most men face is not a lack of value. It's a lack of calibrated visibility. You can be strong, but if your strength is silent and your posture says, "I'm minimizing," her radar still sees you, just not the way you want. You might be intelligent, but if your speech is a stream of defensive context, she hears anxiety, not clarity. You could be kind, but if your kindness melts into self-erasure, she registers it as instability, not generosity. And the worst part is that you'll never know how close you were to being chosen because you misread attention as indifference. The second story is probably closer to home. A colleague, call her Alyssa, once asked you a question in a meeting. You answered, and you thought it was fine. Later, she referenced your exact phrasing. You said, "We could try, but I'm not sure it's worth it." You don't even remember saying it. She does. She noticed not only your words, but the energy behind them. The hesitancy that made her decide not to recommend you for the lead on the next client project. No drama, no anger, just a quiet recalibration. You assumed nobody cared. She was recording signal. This video is your recalibration. You're going to learn why women notice you more than you realize, exactly what they are noticing, and how to make those signals work in your favor without faking a single thing. This is not about manipulation, it's about congruence. Bringing who you are into alignment with how you show up so her radar reads the real you. Here's the promise. After today, you'll walk through your day as if a light has been turned on. You'll see the micro choices you had been making by default, the energy you were leaking, and the attention you can earn by tightening your presence. We'll move from the hook into the problem you've been carrying, then into stories that mirror your life, the psychology that explains them, and the tactical playbook to change the outcome starting the next time you open a door. If you've ever felt like a stranger in your own life, let's fix that. Because she's noticing anyway. It's time you did too. Imagine your brain has a filter called the Reticular Activating System, the RAS. It decides what to bring to your awareness from the ocean of stimuli around you. Buy a motorcycle and suddenly you see motorcycles everywhere. That's RAS tuning. In attraction, her RAS is tuned to social safety, status signals, and behavioral consistency. She doesn't need a checklist. Her nervous system is running a live feed. When you walk into a room, she feels before she analyzes. That's not just intuition. It's rapid pattern recognition built from a lifetime of microlearning. First, safety. Safety isn't soft, it's certainty. Do you move in a way that signals self-control? Are your gestures smooth, your voice paced, your decisions clear? When you order, do you know what you want? Or do you look to the woman next to you for permission to exist? She notices the beat between question and answer. She notices the difference between, maybe the, chicken? And I'll have the chicken. Thank you. The content is trivial, the certainty is not. Safety is also spatial. Do you hold your ground without crowding? Do you step aside in doorways while holding the frame of the interaction? Safety is how you manage the bubble between bodies. She notices where you put your hands. She notices if your eyes flick to other women as a habit. Not once, patterns. Second, status, not money, not flexing. Status is how other people treat you when you're not pushing. Do your friends defer to your opinion because you're thoughtful? Or do you fight for airtime? Do you introduce strangers to each other so the room gets better because you're in it? Do you remember names, pronounce them carefully, and carry conversations from small talk to story with a simple, "Tell me more about that"? She notices social gravity, how people orbit you when you're not trying to be the sun. Third, consistency. Every human can shine for 30 seconds. She's noticing if your charm collapses under pressure. This is why tests happen, not maliciously but predictably. She might disagree mildly, not to pick a fight, but to see whether you can stand alone without needing her approval or swinging to domineering. If you over-explain, apologize too quickly, or escalate, you leak stability. Your masculine center isn't a performance, it's a calm. When you can hold a difference without flinching, she relaxes, and desire grows in relaxation. Overlay these with mate choice copying, the phenomenon where a person seems more attractive when others appear to value them. If other women respect you, if you move in mixed groups where your presence is requested, not begged for, she reads that as pre-selection. It's not about jealousy, it's about proof of concept. Human brains lean on social proof to save energy. She doesn't assume you're good because other women like you. She assumes you're worth evaluating. That's the doorway. Then there's micro-expressions, fleeting facial cues that leak emotion. You don't need to study micro-expression charts. Just know this. Tight lips after you speak? She noticed. Quick downward glance when asked a direct question? She noticed. A tiny half smile that disappears when someone else enters? She noticed. Not because she's suspicious, but because her nervous system is attuned to shifts, especially those related to threat or inconsistency. Finally, the silent dossier, a collection of cues that whisper your story without needing words. Your shoes tell her if you respect details, your nails if you attend to yourself, your scent if you invest in intangible experiences, your laugh if you're generous with joy, your phone on the table if you can't be where your feet are. She notices the way you finish a sentence and whether you let silence sit. She notices if you turn your body when someone new joins the circle. She notices if you say you value health but always forget water for your guests. Each tiny thing adds a brushstroke. After a few minutes, she's not judging, she's composing a picture. Why does this matter? Because if you don't know what's being measured, you can't pass the test, even if you're qualified. Men who believe women don't notice slip into two traps. They either perform loudly, stuffing the air with rehearsed charm, or they withdraw, hoping invisibility will protect them. Both are misreads. The radar doesn't reward volume or disappearance. It rewards grounded signal. When you align your behavior with your essence, when your words match your posture, when your eyes match your yes and your no, her attention sharpens in your direction, not because you stole it, but because you earned it. Now, let's connect this to the workplace and to marriage. At work, she notices who takes ownership when things go sideways. If you quietly step up, outline the path forward, and then do the unglamorous part, follow through, your stock rises even if nobody claps. In marriage, your wife notices whether your "I'll handle it" is a sentence or a story. If it's a sentence followed by action, her nervous system relaxes. If it's a speech followed by procrastination, her nervous system braces. That brace turns into friction, then into withdrawal, then into nights where the air feels thick and neither of you know why. She noticed the pattern months before you felt the distance. The good news is that this radar can be directed. You don't have to transform overnight. Small, consistent changes are amplified by her attention system, the same way a new motorcycle pops against the background of traffic. Tidy your posture, slow your tempo, speak in sentences, keep small promises, and watch how quickly her eyes start finding you in the room. Not because you played a trick, but because you finally started broadcasting on a frequency her body trusts. Let's walk through 3 real-life cases: dating, a growing relationship, and a long-term marriage, so you can feel how this plays out. Case 1. The first 2 dates. You meet Emma through friends. On the first date, you choose a spot with good lighting and a noise floor that allows conversation. You text the day before with a simple plan. Thursday, 7 p.m., cortado on 5th. I'll grab a table near the window. She notices that you chose a place with intention. You didn't say, "wherever you want," which sounds polite but shifts leadership to her. You arrive 5 minutes early, greet the host by name because you asked when you called, and you sit with your back to the room so your attention is on her, not scanning for distraction. She notices your phone is not on the table. You ask 2 questions that require stories, not checklists. What's a decision you made this year that changed your day-to-day? And who gets the best version of you right now? She notices your curiosity includes depth, not interrogation. Midway through, she gently challenges a view you shared. You don't debate. You say, "I get why you see it that way. Here's how I arrived at mine." You keep it short. You own your perspective. She notices your spine without spikes. At the end, you say, "I enjoyed this. I'm free Tuesday at 7 or Saturday afternoon. If you're up for round 2, I'll plan something different." She notices the clarity, the options, the invitation, not the pleading. On the second date, you pick an activity that creates motion. Gallery walk, bookstore, or a short food crawl. So the conversation has scenery. You introduce her to the owner of the taco stand you frequent, and you pay in cash and tip well. You don't perform generosity, you practice it. She notices the way people smile when they see you. She also notices that when a street vendor tries to upsell aggressively, you hold a clean boundary. "We're good with these. Thanks." No apology, no contempt. Signal: this man can draw lines with grace. Outcome: her attention is now invested. Why? Safety, status, and consistency. You didn't need to be a comedian. You needed to be congruent. Case 2, the relationship plateau. You and Maya have been together 8 months. It's good, then sticky, then good again. Lately, she seems less affectionate. You take it personally, then withdraw. She notices the withdrawal and interprets it as uncertainty, not hurt. That misinterpretation widens the gap. Here's what changes things. You set a calm frame. "Hey, I've felt a shift the last couple of weeks. I'm not looking to analyze us to death, but I care about us. I want to understand what you're feeling so we can adjust, together." You don't accuse, you invite. Then you listen. She says work stress is heavy and she's been overwhelmed. She also says your jokes about, "I guess I'm not exciting anymore," landed as pressure. You breathe. "Got it, I'm going to stop with those jokes. Let's set Thursday as our night, no screens. I'll plan this week. We'll adjust the rest as we go." You then act. You plan a simple night, her favorite Thai place, a walk along the waterfront, and home for a movie she's mentioned. You create the conditions for reconnection rather than extracting reassurance. She notices that your leadership didn't turn into lectures, it turned into logistics. You ask one honest question. "What can I take off your plate this week?" She gives you 2 small tasks that actually help. You do them without reminders. She notices follow-through. Affection begins to return not because you demanded it, but because you restored safety through action and pacing. Desire grows in the soil of safety. Case 3, 10 years married, 2 kids. You and Lena have been married a decade. The love is real. The routine is loud. You both work. The kid's schedule runs your calendar. You're a good man, but you've drifted into defensive fatigue. Responding, not leading. She notices. Not because she's keeping score, but because her nervous system is reading your steadiness. And lately it's shaky. You decide to make a tiny, non-theatrical shift. You establish 2 fixed rituals. First, a 15-minute landing window every evening where phones go into a drawer, kids play in the living room, and you and Lena talk face-to-face. Not a project meeting, just a connection check. Second, a Saturday morning logistics block where you review the week's needs and assign responsibilities like a team, not adversaries. You create a shared Google Note where you preload tasks before that block, so it's not one person carrying the mental load. You don't declare this with speeches. You start it this weekend and follow it for 6 weeks before asking if it helps. Meanwhile, you upgrade your presence. You fix the small things. You replace the rattling bathroom fan you promised to fix. You put a hook by the door so coats stop piling on the chair. You invest in 3 shirts that fit you correctly, and you start walking with your son in the evenings, leaving your phone at home. She notices every single one of these things, because each one says, "You can count on me." This reliability is the sexiest language in long-term love. On a random Thursday, you hold her at the sink for a slow kiss for no reason. Not a grab, a reintroduction. You go to bed together that night, not because you won the argument, but because you rebuilt the ground under it. In each case, the technical layer is the same. Signal safety, social gravity, and consistency. She notices what most men never think to show. You don't need to manufacture swagger. You need to reduce friction and increase signal to noise. Fewer words, more presence. Fewer promises, more completions. Less performance, more tempo control. She notices what most men never think to show. Let's turn this into a usable system. You can start today. Think of it as a 5-lane highway. Posture and pace, voice and language, eyes and attention, logistics and leadership, boundaries and warmth. You don't need to master all 5 by Friday. Start with 1 lane per week, iterate, and stack. Lane 1. Posture and pace. Set a timer for 2 minutes daily to practice standing with feet shoulder width, knees unlocked, ribs down, chin back, shoulders soft. Breathe through your nose and exhale longer than you inhale. This posture reads as ready, not rigid. Then, during conversations, add 1 beat more. Before you answer, let there be a breath. That beat signals you're not scrambling to please. It creates the feeling of steadiness. When walking into a room, lower your speed by 5%. That micro slowdown reads as self-possession. She notices arrivals. Make yours confident, not hurried. Lane 2. Voice and language. Record yourself reading a paragraph and then telling a story. Play it back. You're not judging your voice. You're calibrating pace and tone. Aim for sentences with 1 idea each. Avoid spirals of qualification. Replace. I just feel like maybe we could try with, let's try this. If it doesn't work, we'll adjust. Drop the filler, keep the warmth. When you disagree, use a pattern. Acknowledge, assert, anchor. I hear you, I see it differently. Here's my plan. Then do the plan. As your follow-through increases, you'll find fewer words are required. The voice of a man who finishes is a quiet magnet. Lane 3, eyes and attention. Eye contact isn't a stare down, it's a rhythm. Look, hold, release. During a conversation, think in 3-second holds. When she shares something important, stay with her eyes through the end of her sentence. Nod once, then answer. If you're in a group, give your attention to the person speaking, not to the most attractive person in the circle. The discipline of attention is a status cue. She notices men who can focus under stimulation. Also, protect your phone hygiene. If you must check it, say, "Give me 10 seconds, then do it and return fully." This tiny courtesy converts a distraction into a boundary, and boundaries feel safe. Lane 4. Logistics and leadership. Leadership is logistics married to listening. Before a date or a partner night, propose a plan with a backup. 7 at Juniper. If it's slammed, we'll pivot to the rooftop at Lark. After you propose, pause. If she suggests a tweak, incorporate it without losing the lead. In a relationship, run a weekly 20-minute planning block. You hold the timer. You capture commitments. You own 2 tasks that are visible and helpful. Then you complete them. If you miss, you don't explain. You reset and improve your system. Reliability is the most attractive fragrance you can wear. She notices when you run your life like a man who respects his own time. Lane 5. Boundaries and warmth. Boundaries without warmth feel like walls. Warmth without boundaries feels like fog. Combine them. When someone oversteps, respond with friendly clarity. I'm not available for that, but here's what I can do. With your partner, if a conversation spirals, interrupt the loop with this line. I care more about us than being right. Let's take a break and come back at 8. Then come back at 8. She notices repair attempts that don't dissolve into avoidance. In dating, if someone flakes, you don't punish. You reset your availability. No worries, my week's tight. If you want to lock something in, propose 2 times that work for you. Scarcity without drama is power. Now stack 2 amplifiers, style and scent. Style is not fashion week, it's fit, fabric, and contrast. Buy fewer, better basics. Dark denim that fits, 2 tees that flatter your shoulders, 1 jacket that sharpens your outline. Shoes clean enough that a child could reflect in them. Wear a consistent scent, one that sits close to the skin. Apply lightly. Scent encodes memory. If you choose one and stay with it, you turn yourself into a story her body remembers. Finally, adopt the completion rule. For anything under 5 minutes, do it now. Hang the coat. Reply to the email. Confirm the reservation. Tiny completions compound into dependable signal. You're not trying to be perfect. You are becoming predictable in the best way. Predictability is the soil where spontaneity grows because she trusts that the ground won't give way. Let's bring this home. You thought women didn't notice you. Now you know they notice first, and they notice more. They notice the space you keep around your words, the way you hold a door and then step through it like a man who belongs. The way your yes and your no mean something outside your mouth. They notice how other people treat you when you're not performing, how you handle a mild challenge without flaring or folding, and whether your promises turn into actions without theatrics. They notice your posture, your pacing, your eyes, and your attention. They notice if your presence calms or crowds. And they notice, perhaps most of all, whether you respect yourself enough to be consistent. This isn't pressure, it's permission. The game is not to turn yourself into a cartoon. The game is to remove the static that kept your signal from landing. You are allowed to speak slowly. You are allowed to choose. You are allowed to plan. You are allowed to end a disagreement gently and resume it when you can be kind again. You are allowed to be the man who makes rooms better simply because he is in them. In a culture that confuses loud with strong, you get to be quiet and decisive. In a dating world that confuses mysterious with inconsistent, you get to be transparent and rare. Integration looks like this week in motion. On Monday, you practice posture and pace, just 5 minutes of standing and breathing, and during conversations, a single beat before you speak. On Tuesday, you audit your language. 3 fewer fillers, 1 more sentence with a point. On Wednesday, you upgrade attention. No phone on the table, 3-second eye contact rhythm. On Thursday, you lead logistics. Propose a plan with a backup. On Friday, you draw a boundary with warmth. 1 clean no without a defensive essay. By the weekend, you will feel different in your own skin. And because she is already noticing, she will feel it too. If you're single, your next date is your lab. You won't go in hunting for approval, you'll go in to test your signal. If you're in a relationship, your next calendar block is your lab. You will set the frame and do the follow-through without commentary. If you're married, your home is your lab. You will create 2 rituals that communicate. I'm here, I'm steady, I've got us. She will notice, maybe not with a speech, probably with a softer shoulder, a longer glance, a laugh that returns to her mouth sooner than last month. That's the truth of attraction. It's slow fireworks. Quiet pops that stack into a sky you can trust. Remember the rooftop. You arrived, you helped, you breathed, you belonged. You didn't dominate the room, you animated it. The woman by the balcony noticed the moment your actions aligned with your words. The moment your attention turned into an invitation instead of a spotlight. Remember Alyssa quoting your sentence back to you. She noticed your uncertainty because it leaked through your language. Now, you'll let your certainty leak instead. Not a rigid certainty that crushes conversation, but a mature one that says, I'm here, I'm listening, and I'll move us forward. In the end, what women notice most is the man who notices himself. The man who keeps promises to the small version of himself. The guy who hangs the coat, fills the dishwasher, calls when he says he will, and says no when he must. The man whose attention is an earned gift, not a fire hose, whose boundaries are a shelter, not a prison, whose warmth is steady, not a bargaining chip. That man becomes easy to want and impossible to ignore because he radiates safety, respect, and desire without ever naming them. So here's your simple final run-through you can hold in your chest the next time you step into a room. Breathe low. Shoulders soft. Slower by 5%. Eyes present. Speak in sentences. Lead with logistics. Boundaries with warmth. Do the thing you promised. Then forget yourself and enjoy the evening. Everything else will happen because you are making it possible. She notices. She always did. Now, finally, so do you. If this opened a door for you, if you felt your shoulders drop and your vision sharpen, drop a comment with one micro shift you're committing to this week. I read them, and I'd love to know where you'll start. And if you want more straight talk that actually improves your dating, your relationship, and your marriage without the noise, subscribe. This is a place for men who build signal and live with strength that doesn't need to shout.